Good morning, Unity. It is truly a joy to be sharing the platform this morning with our beloved Soul Notes Band and our beloved Janet Hammer. And I know it's not going to sound like the usual applause we have on Sunday because we're not together in the sanctuary, but we are together in spirit and together in heart. And I welcome you to this experience. If this is the first time that you are joining our live broadcast, a special welcome to you. My name is Wendy Craig-Purcell, and I am the minister here at the Unity Center. And if you do live in the San Diego area, once we're able to be together in person, I invite you to come and spend a Sunday morning with us. And so we're going to start the way that we always do, with the striking and the playing of our antique Tibetan singing bowls. And we use these sounds as a way to help us just come into this experience together. It's been a tough couple of weeks for us, and to be able to be in sanctuary together, which is not really just a physical place, but is a state of being, to be in sanctuary together and to be in peace is so important, because that allows us then to move forward boldly and to do what is ours to do, to bring about a kinder, more loving, more just and peaceful world for all. So we'll get started together. Good to be with you again, Janet. Namaste. Let us join together in a moment of centering prayer. Dear sweet loving Spirit, we take this time to clear our minds and to open our hearts wide, to allow ourselves to be aware of all that is happening around us, to know that even in the midst of darkness and difficulty and challenge and unrest, that even in the midst of all of that, there is a presence and the power of Spirit, the presence and power of God. And we call upon that presence and power to guide us individually and collectively, to guide us in a wise and compassionate, loving and just course of action. May we be empowered to live lives from that which is highest in us, and may we open our eyes wide and our hearts wide to see the goodness in each other, to trust that goodness, to call that forth, and to walk together in peace and compassion and kindness. And we know that we cannot have for the world that which we do not practice within ourselves individually. It is my prayer this morning that each of us will hear something today, or remember something today, or be moved or touched by something today that will help us to awaken spiritually and to move forward with ease and grace and courage and faith. And so we begin, and so it is. Amen and amen.
Sweet words of wisdom fill my ears. Your words like water keep my soul sustained. Let them rain, let them rain.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Soul Notes Band. So I know the applause doesn't sound like it usually does on a typical Sunday morning, but you all just are so present, and I really feel us together in this moment. Thank you. So the series that I'm going to be starting this morning, I wrote just a few weeks ago, actually, in the midst of sheltering in place. It's a short 4-part series, and I'm calling it On the Other Side of the Storm. And I actually thought by now we would be pretty much on the other side of it, but not quite. And yet the message that I want to share with you today and in the next several weeks still fits. It prepares, it prepares us for moving to the other side of the storm, because this too will pass. We will not only find our way through this pandemic, but perhaps even more importantly than that, I think we are well on the path to looking at the issue of racism in our country, which we have yet to look at to the extent that we need to, and then to take the action that is long overdue. So we will move through all of this together, and it is a time for us really to continue to deepen in our faith, to stand together and to work together. So this morning, on the other side of the storm, I want to talk to you about being in the same storm, but not in the same boat. In the same storm, but not in the same boat. And here's some readings to get us started. The first is from Martin Luther King Jr. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Another from Martin Luther King Jr. We must accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope. Here's one from the late Dr. Bernie Siegel. You can survive tough situations and even turn them to your advantage by acting as if you are the person you want to be. When you act like that person, you can become that person. The hard parts are deciding whom you want to become, being willing to rehearse until you become that person, and forgiving yourself until you do. Here's one from the author R.M. Drake. Do not lose hope. Please believe that there are 1,000 beautiful things waiting for you. Sunshine comes to all who feel the rain. From Roy T. Bennett, your hardest times often lead to the greatest moments of your life. Keep going. Tough situations build strong people in the end. I believe that we are in a time that is demanding the very bravest, the very strongest in each and every one of us, and we will manifest that, and we will bring about the changes that we need to see in this world. We're going to move now into a time of prayer and meditation. So wherever you may be at home, I encourage you just to kind of sit back and relax. If you are sitting in an upright position, you do want to make sure that your back is nice and straight and that your legs are uncrossed, your hands rest comfortably in your lap. And we take the time to prepare the body for meditation so that we can kind of let go of it and be able to find that quiet and still state of consciousness within. The technique that we use here at the Unity Center is a simple practice of mindful breathing, being aware of the breath as we take it into the body, and being aware of the breath as we let it go, and using that simple practice of mindfulness to help us become more quiet, more centered, and more at peace. So if you haven't already done so, go ahead and close your eyes. Allowing that simple act of closing your eyes to be as if you are quite literally closing the door on any distractions around you. Allowing your attention to move within, resting on the breath. And for a moment, just noticing the pattern of your breathing. Is it deep and steady and smooth? Does it feel irregular or short? Just notice. No judgment or story about it. Notice if there is any tightness that you are feeling in your body, perhaps in your shoulders, your neck or jaw or forehead. And if you notice any tension or tightness, send a thought of blessing to that area. Perhaps even imagining you're taking a breath in and out and through that particular part of the body. To just relax. It's been a tough couple of weeks. I invite you now to take a nice, deep, and steady breath in, really aware of the air filling your lungs. And as you let that breath go, really practice the feeling of letting go and releasing. And another deep and mindful breath in. And as you let that breath go, practice being fully present in your body. And another deep and mindful breath in. And as you let that breath go, practice a feeling of opening up. Continuing to be aware of the breath. Mindful of the breath in. Mindful of the breath out. Letting go. Being present. And opening up. Continuing to be aware of the breath as you begin to hear the sounds of the beautiful chant. Ever aware of the breath. And should your attention wander, gently bringing it back.
그래 너네 그가 그래 너네 사 그래 너네 시리 그르데 Siri Guru Deve Name Siri Guru Deve Name Name
Allow yourself now to move even deeper into a time of quiet and meditation. Still aware of each mindful breath in and out, as if there is a rich and comforting blanket of peace enveloping you, quiet and calm. Continuing to be aware of each mindful breath, allow your attention to move to the area of the heart, the center of your chest. Imagining that each mindful breath is moving in and through the area of the heart. Each mindful breath moving in and through the area of the heart. Aware of the breath, attention focused in the area of the heart. Let us join together wherever we are in this time and space in a deep practice of being peace. A deep practice of being peace. With each breath in, breathing in the awareness of peace. With each breath out, breathing out a blessing of peace. Breathing in peace, breathing out peace. As if every breath in fills your body to overflowing the state of peace, and every breath out is a blessing of peace, sending that consciousness all around, and especially to those places where there is such unrest, such anger and hurt, not denying and yet knowing that the way through, the way to healing begins anchored in the awareness of peace and anchored in the awareness that we are one human family. We are one. And so I invite us for the next few minutes in complete stillness and silence to practice deeply being a radiating center of peace, that peace may empower and inspire divine action in the silence, in the silence, in the silence.
Siri Guru Devi Name Siri Guru Devi Name Name
And so it is. Amen and amen. If you are watching with a loved one, take just a moment to bless them with the salutation, Namaste. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. Namaste. So as I said, I want to begin a new series with you this morning about the idea of beyond the storm and the reality that we are all in this storm together, but we are not all in the same boat. In other words, we're not all experiencing it the same way. The solo featured song that we've selected for you this morning is one that was written by Janice Stanfield, and it is called Bitter or Better. Bitter or Better.
Life won't always turn out like you thought it would. Caught in disappointment, it's hard to find the good. First you ask why, then shake your fist at the sky. Finally you cry, and you make it to the other side. Bitter or better, bitter or better, bitter or better, the choice is up to you. What you gonna do? Bitter or better? The choice is up to you. The choice is up to you. Once a very wise man said these words to me: there's no greater teacher than adversity. First you ask why, then shake your fists at the sky. Finally you cry, and you make it to the other side. Bitter or better, bitter or better, bitter or better, the choice is up to you. Bitter or better, what's it gonna be? Bitter or better, what you gonna do? Bitter or better, the choice is up to you. The choice is up to you. Bitter or better, bitter What's it gonna be? Bitter or better? What you gonna do? Better or better? The choice is up to you. The choice is up to you. The choice is up to you. The choice is up to you.
All righty. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Soul Notes Band. As you were listening to the song, I hope you found yourself saying, I'm going to choose better. I'm going to choose better, not bitter. So on the other side of the storm, we're in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. I wish I knew who first said that. It describes so accurately, I think, what we're experiencing. COVID-19 and the events of these last couple of weeks since the killing of George Floyd have created a perfect storm, if ever there was one. And what I know to be true is this, that what we do now and in the weeks and months to come will determine what the other side of this storm looks like for us individually and for us as a country. It's time for us to really raise our voices and act as we are spiritually guided and morally and principally guided. And those actions, whatever they may be, inspired by love and justice and kindness, will absolutely be part of what makes the difference. You know, if you think about storms, for the most part, people don't like them very much because they tend to be unpleasant, chaotic, noisy, and sometimes dangerous, right? Sometimes dangerous. And whether it's the storm of COVID-19 that all around the world we are still dealing with, or the racism in our country that has finally been laid bare in such a way that we cannot look away anymore. We must look at it. It can no longer be denied. Storms can bring about significant change, right? I mean, think of the power of storms that cause landslides, the tremendous power, the tremendous significant change that can happen from the environment itself or the aftermath after a hurricane or a tsunami. It literally reshapes, it has the power and the potential to reshape the environment. And it is my belief that where we are now with this pandemic and where we are now in looking at what has been long overdue to look at, racism in our country, that we are at a critical turning point, a very important turning point that can reshape life going forward. We're in a time of tremendous change. We've been hearing that again and again and again, that this is a time of unprecedented change. We were saying that before the events of the killing of George Floyd. We were saying that when it was just the pandemic that we were dealing with. That these are unprecedented times. And that is absolutely true. Unprecedented times of change. And change is not easy to deal with, is it? I mean, how many of us go, oh, I can't wait for change. I'm just so excited for it. That's not usually the first response. When change is thrust upon us, and when it is change that is uncomfortable, when it is change that is chaotic, when it is change that seems uncertain, we don't know what it's going to lead to, we tend to pull back. We tend to contract. Dealing with change takes skill. Think about that. Being able to deal with change takes skill. Going through the storm of COVID-19, we may feel as if the bottom has dropped out of our lives. Going through the storm of COVID-19, we may feel as if we don't even know who we are anymore, that we're dealing with a lost sense of identity. Or we may feel lonely and afraid, or deep grief, and just as if the whole foundation beneath us has been shaken, which in reality, it really has. Going through the storm of racism, we will feeling a whole variety of emotions, from anger and despair and fear and grief and perhaps guilt and shame. I was being interviewed I think it was on Thursday, for an article with the San Diego Union Tribune about the work that we and others in San Diego have been doing for quite some time around ending racism. And one of the pieces that the interviewer was asking me is, well, part of the reason that white people don't know what to say is they are afraid of saying the wrong thing. We're in a time of change, the storm of racism, being able to speak about topics that maybe we've always shied away from because we're so afraid of offending or making a mistake. And I remember sharing with the interviewer, sometimes maybe it's as simple, if you're a white person wanting to open up a conversation around race with a coworker or a friend that maybe you've never had the conversation with before. A starting point can simply be the honesty of, I don't know how to do this. And I hope that you will trust my heart that I'm coming from the most honest place inside of me that I can to ask you, how are you in this? And I want to understand better. And maybe I may say things in an awkward way or be unskillful, but I've got to at least try. So dealing with change takes skill. And sometimes we're going to mess up. Whether it is the skill of dealing with the change brought about from the virus, that maybe we've lost our job, maybe we're going to have to reinvent ourselves, maybe we're going to have to learn some new things. All of that takes time. We're in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. A family that is able, or an individual that is able to work from home remotely, is not experiencing the result of this pandemic and sheltering in place. In the same way that someone who's lost their job because they cannot work remotely, or someone who is on the front lines having to make that decision between, do I put myself possibly at risk health-wise or not? If I don't put myself at risk, if I don't go to work, then how do I put food on the table? We are in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. We're not in the same boat. Somebody who is a single parent, now juggling working at home and trying to be the best parent they can and be there for their child who's doing their school online, that's a very different situation than the individual or the couple or the family whose kids are grown and do not have to deal with that. We're in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. Dealing with racism. I am so aware, and I hope, speaking to my fellow white brothers and sisters, that we are all beginning to really get that the lived experiences that we have as white people are not the same lived experiences as our brothers and sisters of color. They're not. It doesn't make us bad to recognize it. It makes us awake. And when we are awake, then we can begin to make better choices. And even if in the process of making those better choices we make mistakes, as long as our intention is in the right place, as long as we are willing to be taught, as long as we are willing to be vulnerable, as long as we are willing to make our mistakes and learn from them, it will be okay. Change is inevitable. We all know that. It's seldom pleasant. And yet, between the pandemic and the racism that we are seeing right in front of us, these are powerful evolutionary drivers forcing us to have to deal with things we haven't dealt with before and find new ways. Whether it's new ways to bring about fairness in our health system or new ways to bring about true equality and justice, these are evolutionary drivers forcing us to awaken, to open our eyes, to open our minds, to open our hearts, to raise our voices, and to lend our hands for support. This month, I celebrate my 40th anniversary of being ordained a Unity minister. And in those 40 years, I have seen a lot, but I have never, ever seen us in a place that is so powerfully important as the place we find ourselves right now. And it is we and those who understand that these issues are humanitarian issues. They are not political issues. These are humanitarian issues. And those of us, when we understand that, absolutely must act. We are holding the choice in our hands. It's like the young boys who knew there was a very wise man in their village, and they wanted to test him to see just how wise he really was. And so they came upon a plan, a way to test him. They would take a small live bird, and one of the boys would hold it, that live bird, in his hand behind his back. And they would go to the wise man, and they would ask him the question, is the bird in my hand alive or dead? And of course, if the wise man said the bird was alive, they would kill the bird and show him the dead bird. If he said that the bird was dead, they would, of course, show him the live bird. And so they presented him with this question, and he paused in silence for a moment. And then his response was simply, the life you are holding is in your hands. The life you are holding is in your hands. You and I are holding the life of our future humanity in our hands. We are not all called to do the same work, but we are all called to do our part. This is a time for us to be deeply in our spiritual practice, a time for us to be deeply in prayer around what is mine to do. What is mine to do? And then whatever that is, to be about doing that. This is a time that we are seeing the best of us, and we are seeing the worst of us. And unfortunately, the worst of us gets much more television time than the best of us, because that is also rising up. These times will be what we make of them. We cannot say, I want to go back to normal. Normal wasn't that good. We cannot go back. We must be willing and courageous and mindful and intentional to find a better way to go forward. That's what this time is about. It is not about returning to normal. It is about creating something new. Something is trying to emerge. My friend and colleague Michael Beckwith has often said that pain pushes until the vision pulls. We are being pushed by pain right now. I know you see it, and I know you feel it, just as I do. And so as we are being shoved, let us also say, but I'm going to grab hold of a vision that pulls me mightily forward toward what can be, toward a world that is more loving, toward a world that is more just, toward a world that is more peaceful, toward a world that is more joyful. Change often takes us into new territory, doesn't it? And maybe that's one of the reasons we don't like it so much. New territories where there are no maps. There is not an instruction book right now for how to get through this stuff. We're figuring it out as we go along. But as long as we stay in tune with divine mind, as long as we practice and reflect and pray and think and work together, we will come up with better solutions. We may take a few detours here and there. We may fumble a little bit along the way, but we will get there. And we will learn what it means to raise up a human family that is grounded in love and kindness and fairness. We're in a storm of change right now, and as I've said, dealing with change takes skill. And I have just a couple of things I want to suggest as ways to deepen our skill. The first is this. I think we need to be willing to recognize and not deny what's been lost. I think we need to be willing to recognize and not deny what's been lost, to see it, to name it, to not deny it. For too long, a part of New Thought has been about kind of only seeing the good and only talking about the good and being afraid that if we deviate from only focusing on the good, that somehow we're going to make things worse. We don't want to dwell on what's not working, but we've got to be aware of what's not working. We can't change anything if we won't even acknowledge that it exists. So being willing to recognize, not deny what's been lost, see it, name it. I'm reminded of the story, the joke of the priest, the rabbi, and the New Thought minister who found themselves in hell. And they were quite perplexed, especially the priest and the rabbi. What in the world were they doing there? And they see off in the corner the New Thought minister mumbling to himself. And as they go over to him, they hear him saying, "It's not hot and I'm not here. It's not hot and I'm not here." We need to admit where we are. We need to be willing to recognize, not deny what's been lost. Through COVID, some have lost their jobs and are dealing with serious financial challenges. Some have lost loved ones and friends and coworkers to the disease. Many have lost the ability to celebrate in normal social ways, birthdays and anniversaries and weddings. And some have lost the ability to be with their loved ones who have passed on and to grieve as a community. We need to be willing to see what's been lost, not dwell, but to see what's been lost, to name it. We need to see what's been lost to racism. At the very least, we can name the lives that were killed, that were taken because of the color of their skin, to see them, to name them. Secondly, we need to be willing to grieve what's been lost. And that's not exactly the same thing as seeing it. We can see something and then kind of shut down so that we don't have to feel the sadness. But what I know to be true is that when we shut down, when we do not allow ourselves to grieve what we have lost, whether it's innocence or loved ones or opportunity or life as we once understood it, or the realities that our country isn't equal yet, to feel that is important. To feel that is important. And to feel it is a way to cleanse ourselves from it so that then true healing can happen and we can move forward. We don't all grieve the same way. It doesn't all look the same. I'm reminded of the journey my mother has taken in the loss of my dad, her husband, and her journey of grief as she has shared it with a dear friend, Sharon, and how the two of them, who have both lost their husbands in a relatively short and similar period of time, are experiencing and sharing their feelings of grief, but also realizing that there is uniqueness in how each of them processes and sees that and feels that. And this is where our respect and compassion to one another comes in, to allow those who are grieving to be with those feelings. And that's my third point here, to be with what is for now, but not settling for it. To be with what is, to look at it, to name it, to feel it, to grieve it, but then to be mightily about the work of change. And so in closing, it is about practicing, I believe, deep listening to the call of your soul, listening in sacred trust and safety to those whose stories and lives are very different than your own, to remembering that, yes, we are in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat, and so it's going to feel very different, and to not make the other wrong for whatever their experience of the storm may be. Close with this quote. It's been attributed to a number of people, even including going back to Socrates. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Let's stop fighting the old, and let's decide what the new wants to be. Namaste. Thank you. We come to the time in our service where we would be acknowledging those who are here for the first time. And so if you are listening to this broadcast for the very first time and you are moved by anything you've heard or resonate with some of these ideas, we encourage you to check out our website, theunitycenter.net. If you don't live in the San Diego area, there are Unity and Centers for Spiritual Living churches, New Thought churches, all around the country and around the world. Consider checking into them if you don't already have a spiritual path and a spiritual community that really speaks to your mind, your heart, and your soul. This is a time for us to work on these things individually and collectively from a spiritual foundation. So we invite you, though, to reach out to us, and if you want to know more about Unity programs and activities, please give us a call or send us an email. I do have a few announcements that I want to share with you. The first is to remind you that on Wednesday evenings, we do have an online meditation with David Stanley at 7 p.m. You do need to register for that, and you can contact Jenna Rowe at the Unity Center if you don't already know how to register. On Thursdays, we have Centering Prayer with Kim Kennedy. Jenna, is that on Thursday or is it on Wednesday? Okay, sorry, it had been changing back and forth. So Centering Prayer is on Thursday with Kim Kennedy at noontime. We will have our discussion group right after this service, and you can find the link on our website. And then very excited to let you know that we are co-promoting with Oasis a webinar being led by Peter Boland on June 30th. The title of it is Dismantling Racism, One Insight at a Time. This is actually the workshop that he was preparing through our Braver Conversations connection work that we were going to be presenting live here at the Unity Center, but it is being offered now as a webinar. You can go to our website to get more information about that or register for that. I also have a couple of pieces I want to share with you before we close out, both with our offering and with another wonderful piece of music. And so here, and I hope you're still with us, because I think that these two things that I'd like to share with you are very timely and very important to the issues that we're facing in our country today. So many of you who are part of the Unity Center do know that we in this church have been working since 2017 very deeply and very mindfully on raising racial awareness, raising racial literacy, and then acting to bring about change. So our work is not in response to George Floyd's killing, but has been something that we've been doing ever since the riots in Charlottesville in 2017. And I am so proud of our Unity movement because we are stepping front and center to do our work together now, something we've not done before. And I want to read to you a letter that my friend and colleague, Unity Minister Lisa Davis, wrote to her congregation in Portland. Dearest Unity family, along with many of you, I have watched our country erupt in protests in the last week because of the ongoing and inhumane treatment of people of color in this country. I have worked to keep my center and hear the eternal call of spirit as we all search for what is ours to do. I feel that I would be spiritually and morally irresponsible not to talk honestly to our community as we take a stand for the Black community. Currently, I believe that this is a call for action and awakening for every one of us, individually and collectively, here at Unity Spiritual Center of Portland. This is a time to awaken to the truth about race in America and our journey within it. It is a time to stand clearly in our beliefs of the divine in every being and support those that do not have the same privileges as others because of ongoing systemic racism. This is a time to become racially aware and to learn about the true history of race and whiteness. This is a time to take a clear stand for equality and justice for all people. And this is the time to take a stand for people over property. We may start out as awkward allies, but we can be allies as we learn to change our beliefs and the current policies and practices in our government. As Black parents in our community, our city, state, and country speak to their children about how to deal with the inevitable racism and violence that will come their way, I want your support. As a community, we can be an active part of the change. Enough is enough, and we are more than this. Today, I ask you to take action by joining some of the organizations, and then Lisa lists them. We can provide a similar list. Going forward, we will be gathering to build a leadership team for this, offering education and action steps that will help us all look at what it means to be anti-racist, against racism, and for inclusivity in the United States today. With love, Reverend Lisa. Lisa, I applaud your work, and we are busy here at the Unity Center looking at how we provide the workshop I was going to present at convention on the work that we've been doing here so we can make it easier for some of our fellow Unity and New Thought ministers. I would like to share a very short open letter video with you now. Jenna and Janet.
This is an open letter to Black America from Unity ministers. We love you, and we embrace our responsibility to eradicate racism. It is our divine appointment to stand with you, to see you,
to hear you,
to listen,
To be in conversation with you.
To be with your anger without judgment.
to know your sacred worth,
To acknowledge my privilege.
To take responsibility.
To confront complacency.
To back my words with action. Palabras con acción.
To be accountable for effecting change in my community.
To support Black-owned businesses.
To be a bender of the arc of the moral universe that bends toward justice.
To demand the end of police brutality.
To use my voice and my vote to end systemic racism.
To hold you and our country in prayer.
To be a call to action.
To be a voice for justice. To be a voice for unity.
Please be sure to continue to check our website and read the emails that we send you, as well as checking our Facebook page for the ways that we will be furthering this work, and we're here if you have questions. I'd like to invite you to either take the offering that you're going to text to the church or sign up online through our app to share with our community. Your support is vitally needed so that our work can continue. We are continuing to serve our children through online lessons. We are continuing to make wellness calls. We are continuing to provide Sunday support and prayer support. So your help allows us to do that. I invite you to hold that gift either literally or figuratively in your hand now as we bless our gift with this affirmation. I'll say it once, then please join me. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And say it with me now. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen and amen.
Today, just past this veil of tears, there's a ray of hope that filters through the pain. Beyond today, I have have no map to trace, when my steps are shook by grace, and God's prepared the way beyond today. Yesterday my heart couldn't beat for breaking, hopes and dreams shattered in my face, but I need to be whole, I must be open. So I'm opening up and healing more each day. Beyond today, just past this veil of tears, there's a ray of hope that filters through the pain. Beyond today, I have no map to trace, when my steps are shook by grace, and God's prepared the way beyond today. Tomorrow, if I'm standing on the mountain, confident I've conquered every foe, I know by God's Spirit I've arrived here, as I hear its inner wisdom, soft and low. Oh, oh, oh. Beyond today, just past this veil of tears, there's a ray of hope that filters through the pain. Beyond today, I have no map to trace, when my steps are shook by grace, and God's prepared the way. Beyond today, when my steps are shook by grace, and God's prepared the way beyond today.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you, Soul Notes Band. And so we close our time together with the words to our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, wherever we go, God is, and all is well. And together we say, Amen. God bless. See you next Sunday.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, one family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the